Okay, hello everyone. I'm Carolyn Yee, Senior Communications Manager at SDF, and welcome. Thank you all for joining us for the Stellar Development Foundation's Q2 quarter in review. So here is today's agenda. First, our CEO and Executive Director, Denelle Dixon, will recap some noteworthy highlights from Q2. We'll have Justin Rice, VP of Ecosystem, go over network stats and cover our North Star 1, which is about building toward a future-proof and sustainable Stellar. Denelle will review North Star 2, how we focus on everyday financial services. And Jason Chlipala, Chief Business Officer, will take us through North Star 3, how we ensure a trustworthy tech stack that advances adoption. And we'll be leaving time at the end for your questions. And the earlier you ask, the more likely we'll be able to get to them. So please do submit them throughout the call using the Q&A menu option in Zoom. That's the agenda. Denelle, take it away.
Well, hello, everyone. Well, we're more than halfway through the year with a lot of progress made and in the ecosystem. And so let's recap some of those highlights. This was a strong quarter for the enterprise and matching funds, which invested $7.8 million in companies building in Colombia, Nigeria, and the United States. We celebrated 2 years of MoneyGram access, which has been monumentally important in expanding what builders can do on Stellar and who they can reach. Sorbonne adoption and development are progressing up and to the right at a steady pace. We've mobilized many resources around dev education and engagement, funding support, and Sorbonne development. The result has been an uptick in new devs building new projects, bringing new volume and reach to the network, which is super awesome. In Q2, the Stellar Community Fund awarded over $5 million worth of lumens to 107 projects, 86 of which are building on Sorbonne. And we've landed on a new state archival proposal that sets out to solve blockchain's biggest scalability problem, state bloat. It's ignited exactly the right kind of discussion in the industry that we want, and we want to lead on, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But first, here's a quick reminder of our current roadmap and North Stars. First, the involvement of many will help drive toward a future-proof and sustainable Stellar. Second, SDF prioritizes the focus on everyday financial services in pursuit of our mission. And third, building a trustworthy technology stack that enhances and advances adoption. These North Stars continue to guide us closer to SDF's mission of enabling greater access to the global financial system by redefining who has access to everyday financial services. So I'll be back in a bit, but for now, I'm going to turn it over to you, Justin.
Great. Thanks, Denelle. Hi, everyone. I'm Justin Rice, VP of Ecosystem, here to share a look at some key network stats. Let's go. So first up, let's check in on total addresses on the network. In Q2, total addresses crossed the 8.4 million mark due to the creation of over 400,000 new addresses in the past 3 months alone. That's a lot of new Stellar users, and it's largely due to wallets like AirTM that are gaining adoption by building solutions that resonate with real-world users, a lot of real-world users. Now, what can this growing group of users access on the network? Well, one big category of things, real-world assets. Things like stable coins, including USDC and EURC, things like Franklin Templeton Benji and the Wisdom Tree funds. And at the end of Q2, real-world asset supply on the network hit almost $600 million worth. It's actually gone up since. Today, that number is around $675 million worth. Next, we're tracking real-world asset payments volume, which makes sense because Stellar was designed to improve the global payments landscape. So in Q2, the real-world asset payments volume was equivalent to $1.8 billion worth, which is a lot. And that's up $200 million worth since Q1. So this quarter, more accounts accessing more real-world assets, making more payments, exactly the kind of thing we hope to see. That brings us to our next metric, total volume of real-world assets, relevant assets, and lumens, XLM. So these are assets, in other words, that are tethered to real-world financial instruments or that have actual network utility. And by total volume, we mean both payment volume, which we kind of just went over, as well as decentralized exchange or DEX volume, which is all the trades that make use of Stellar's built-in order books and Stellar's automated market makers built in. So Q2, payment volume of these assets was over $3.8 billion worth. The DEX volume of these assets was over $127 million worth. And so together, that brings the total volume for these assets in Q2 to $3.9 billion worth. Next, total operations. So operations on Stellar are any functions that change the ledger. So this includes payments, trades on the DEX, as well as things like smart contract uploads and invocations. In other words, this is a measure of network throughput. And there were over 742 million operations on Stellar in Q2, which is on par with last quarter. So that puts the total number of operations the network has processed to date at over 16.5 billion. So there's a long history of a lot of throughput, a lot of transactions being processed by the network. Also new this year, we're going to track fees, and specifically daily transactions by total fees charged and average transaction costs. So across all 403 million plus transactions on the Stellar network in Q2, the total fees charged came to just over $21,000. So if you do the math, that means the average transaction cost on Stellar in Q2 was only 0.000053 cents. By contrast, Solana, another network that touts low fees, saw average transaction fees increase by 56% in Q2. They went from 0.0141 cents to 0.0221 cents. So you heard it here, folks. Stellar is cheaper than Solana. The last set of metrics measure the decentralization of the network. Decentralization is key to the health and longevity of the network. And so we're going to monitor the number of nodes and the average ledger close times to see how the network is holding up. You know, there's more accounts, there's more payments, there's more transactions. How's it holding up? So first, let's look at the number of tier 1 validator nodes. These are nodes that are run by organizations that have a high level of network trust, and they're essential to the network health and resilience. And at the end of Q2, there were 23 tier 1 validator nodes. The total number of network nodes, according to StellarBeat, which is like an independent network explorer, was 147. So 147 total nodes. Average ledger close time clocks in at 5.9 seconds. So mid-year headline on Stellar network metrics, accounts are up, real-world activity is up, the network continues to support high throughput, and it closes ledgers at a steady clip. And that is a wrap on network stats. So now let's turn to the first North Star, which points out that open participation, innovation, and governance are necessary to ensure a future-proof and sustainable Stellar. What we're seeing is that smart contracts have opened up a new chapter in development, growth, and adoption of Stellar, and they're supercharging the reach that builders have in the real world. So what are we doing to help make that happen? SDF continues to fund developers as they learn, tinker, build, test, launch, and scale their projects. In Q2, the Stellar Community Fund, which is the open application rewards program that draws on community input to support developers and startups, it completed 3 rounds, received 338 submissions, which beats last quarter's 198 submissions and sets a new record, people, a new record of submissions to the Community Fund. Now, with the input, participation, and support of the Community Fund then awarded over $5 million worth of lumens to 107 new projects, 86 of which are building on Sorbonne. So a lot of people applying, a lot of awards going out. It's pretty amazing to see it continue to tick along. If you're out there and you're looking to build something real, there's definitely funding and support and a welcoming community waiting for you. And here's a snapshot of what that community looks like and some examples of what they built in Q2. So builder education has rapidly scaled up and seen significant growth, with dev engagement activities at over 40 events that welcomed over 2,000 attendees. One example, the Stellar Cash to DeFi Challenge hosted by EZA at Consensus attracted hundreds of devs, and after hacking together all weekend, 35 teams submitted Stellar projects, actually more than on any other track. The winning project, DeFi Indexes, allows wallet providers to offer savings accounts with diversified DeFi investments in just one click. It was a collaboration between Meru, which is a fast-growing Stellar wallet, and Palta Labs, which is the team behind the Stellar-built AMM SoraSwap. So it's a pretty cool collaboration. Palta Labs, by the way, has also been leading Stellar education sessions on Discord in Spanish, which has been a really cool thing to see. What else? In May, Script 3 launched Blend, which is a liquidity protocol primitive that enables permissionless creation of lending pools that respond to emerging market needs. And to date, they've hit nearly $2 million worth of TVL. Meru, mentioned above, became the first wallet to integrate Blend, enabling their users to earn yield on USDC directly from the app. And that kind of integration between projects like Meru and Blend, where like wallets support the growing cohort of DeFi protocols, that's something we expect to see more of this year as enterprising developers assemble the ecosystem building blocks to create end-to-end solutions to real-world problems. So stay tuned. Finally, Electric Capital, which is an early-stage venture firm focused on Web3, they published an update to their oft-consulted developer report, which tracks open-source developer contributions across pretty much every blockchain ecosystem. And that showed a 91% increase in monthly active Stellar devs, a 124% increase in monthly Stellar commits, and 1.7 million total Stellar commits over the past 3 years. So we said at the start of the Sorbonne journey that the increased surface area for innovation on Stellar would be meaningful for developer activity and ecosystem growth, and that's proving to be true. Sigh of relief here, insert. So if you're a developer, you're an entrepreneur, you're a visionary, or a builder of any kind, there's no better time than now to join the ecosystem, right? It's still greenfield for innovation, but it's also full of life. Lots of smart people are combining access with extensibility to create interesting and impactful things. And if you want to engage, but you're not sure where to start, just do this. Join the Stellar Dev Discord. I'll be there, along with everyone else from the vibrant and growing Stellar community, to interact, to engage, to answer any questions that you have. As Denelle said at the top of the call, we're seeing progress in the right direction in all categories, right? New devs, new projects, new volumes, and new users. And that's evidence the ecosystem is succeeding in building the next generation of everyday financial services on Stellar. I will now turn it over to Denelle for the next Sorbonne update. Denelle.
Do you guys love how much Justin gets into this like small jam-packed session? Makes me so happy. So thank you, Justin. The ecosystem has been hard at work in Q2, and there are plenty of updates to share on how Sorbonne functionality and scalability is expanding, including 2 bridge integrations, Allbridge Core and Pendulum, and an ecosystem proposal which lowers the effort needed for dApp builders to support new wallets. You can read more about these in the full report. The thing I wanted to touch on here is the progress on state archival. We've now landed on a new proposal for it, following discussions and feedback from the community. We've been sharing and talking more about this progress, and that kicked off broader discussions and conversations on Next the other week about scaling challenges, notably with Solana Labs co-founder Anatoly Yakovenko. Yesterday, he and others from the industry joined in X Spaces we organized to further discuss operational efficiency and how the Sorbonne State Archival Interface proposal and Solana's proposal Avocado stack up. During that Twitter space, Garand and Anatoly discussed the issue of state bloat and how blockchain storage must adapt in order for mass adoption. We agree. We agree on some foundational things. The current assumptions that state can live forever is a fundamental problem, and it must be addressed. We disagree on other things. Solana's approach is that data availability is not the responsibility of an L1. Stellar's proposal prioritizes data availability and finds a clever solution, leveraging decentralized history archives to ensure that all data is available and accessible. Solana relies on off-chain solutions for efficiency, such as validators pulling together for storage. On Stellar, efficiency is built into the protocol itself, and validators are efficient without pulling or relying on off-chain services. Solana believes devs will eat complexity to save costs, whereas the Stellar proposal is mindful not to pass the complexity on to the user. Because state archival is handled by the RPC instance, users do not have to deal with it. It's safe to say, and I know I'm biased, but I think Stellar has Solana beat on this one. But we're going to continue to have these conversations because we think this is exactly how we get to better ecosystem development across blockchain and crypto. So we're going to keep them going. Having community, ecosystem, and industry players all engaged in innovating and building better tech and end user products together, this is exactly what we want to see more of. So here's to all of you who have listened and are working with us to build the solutions that scale and expand the utility of the network. Moving along to the next North Star, let's go over what we're doing to focus on everyday financial services. Tokenization on Stellar is on a roll. WisdomTree announced expanded access to assets, making their retail financial app, WisdomTree Prime, available in 41 states, representing 75% of the US population. So as tokenization continues to boom, this move opens up mainstream access to tokenized assets and is a step in the right direction to addressing the problem of increasingly fragmented payment platforms. With WisdomTree Prime, they are providing customers with a unified platform to seamlessly integrate their fiat and digital payments, savings, and investment assets all in one application, allowing customers to better manage their daily financial lives. This is what we mean when we talk about transforming everyday financial services. Bitstamp announced the listing of Swiss franc, euro, US dollar, and Japanese yen stablecoins, enhancing the flexibility of trading opportunities and access to Stellar-based assets for Bitstamp users. Leading infrastructure provider Taurus integrated their Taurus Protect custody platform and the Taurus Capital issuance and tokenization platforms with Stellar, meaning their clients can now benefit from reduced fees and fast transactions for tokenization of things like equity, debt, and funds. And then longtime ecosystem partner Circle's MiCA approval now allows the ecosystem to get to work accelerating adoption of EURC in Europe. And we've already seen an increase of more than double the number of asset holders of USDC since the start of the year, much of which can be attributed to AirTM users. These are just a few examples of how we're expanding access to trusted versions of widely used currencies and real-world assets on Stellar. So that brings me to updates on wallets, the ever-important entry point for access to these currencies. So in June, we celebrated 2 years of MoneyGram access. When we launched this with MoneyGram, the goal was to solve the last mile problem that no other network had solved and to expand the utility and use of digital assets by creating a bridge between cash and crypto. We started with 2 wallet integrations, and now 30 wallets have either integrated or in the pipeline. One of the most exciting things to me about rolling out a solution like this globally is seeing how people use it in the real world. A few insights to note. Since launch, we've seen an average transaction size of about $480. The top cash-in country is the US, which is also the top country for sending remittances, while the top cash-out countries are Ukraine, Colombia, Mexico, and Argentina, which are either developing emerging economies, or in Ukraine's case, it's going through a rebuilding process. But we're observing tracks with our thesis from the outset, which was that this solution would provide new utility for things like remittances in small but meaningful amounts in key markets. It's also became the foundation for Stellar Aid Assist and the Stellar Disbursement Platform. Now with Soroban and cash to DeFi capabilities, we've entered a new phase of seeing what builders and users will do with this utility. We announced in Q2 that smart wallets on Stellar are currently under active development, starting with a new passkey feature, which would allow users to easily sign contracts and verify transactions with biometrics. It's designed to provide a familiar and secure user experience in the decentralized world of Web3 smart wallets. I raise this because as crypto has come of age, navigating the complex world of Web3 is still challenging for many users. This is a step forward in helping to improve their journeys and this with safety and accessibility of the network. I'll take questions at the end during Q&A, so drop them in on the Zoom, but I'm going to hand it over to Jason now so he can share some funding updates.
Thanks, Denelle. Hi, everyone. I'm here to start with an update on our investments. So in Q2, we made a $3.75 million investment in a leading Colombian fintech that has built an extensive network of on-off ramps across the country and will integrate to deepen the reach of Stellar across the country. More to come on this investment in September. Following our spring trip to Nigeria, we also invested $1.25 million in Aku Fintech, a payments-led fintech company dedicated to leveraging innovative technology to drive financial inclusion and payments. They are a Tier 2 unit microfinance bank licensed by the Central Bank of Nigeria. SDF made a $200,000 investment in Etherfuse, a fintech company introducing stable bonds, which are assets that marry traditional bonds with blockchain technology. They've also created the world's first and only Mexican peso yield asset. And finally, we've invested $2.4 million into a collaboration with Draper University, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, to bring tailored support and mentorship to some of the most promising founders in Web3 building on Stellar. All in all, a strong quarter of investments that drive toward ensuring that sustainable Stellar uses continue to grow and get the support they need. Now, for a look at what we achieved under our third North Star. This is everything we do to build a trustworthy technology stack to advance adoption. Let's start with all we did to build this trust in person. The spring conference circuit was headlined by Paris Blockchain Week Summit, which included keynotes and talks by Denelle, as well as our experts across the product, investment, and DevRel orgs. We also brought ecosystem voices, including MoneyGram, Decaf, Beans, and Vibrant, to the stage to highlight the work of builders on the network. At CoinDesk's Consensus, we teamed up with EasyA for a hackathon that drew hundreds of developers, with Wisdom Tree for a networking event, and brought talks by SDF engineers and ecosystem members like Script3 and Glow Dollar to the Protocol Village stage. And very soon, we'll be gathering you all for our own event. Meridian is headed to London from October 15th to 17th. This year's theme is transformation. Over 3 days, we'll gather to discuss our work together as an ecosystem and envision what's next on the path to transforming everyday financial services. Meridian is your chance to hear from industry-shaping voices and connect with developers, founders, and leaders making real-world change with blockchain technology. Tickets are on sale now. Don't miss your chance to take advantage of early bird pricing, which goes on until August 15th. So that's basically 2 weeks away. Just a couple more weeks, so grab your ticket now. More updates to come on what we have in store. Finally, I'll wrap this section up with what we've been doing to engage with key policy audiences and help shape digital asset policy globally. This is all the work that our policy team does to continue to establish our position as a thought leader on financial access. SDF recently joined industry counterparts in signing onto a letter voicing support for the core principles behind the bipartisan Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century Act, a united front from the industry and a pragmatic step forward. The team made the work of the Stellar ecosystem known at key events throughout the quarter, including but not limited to the Atlantic Council Roundtable during the IMF World Bank Spring Meetings, ETH DC, and the DC Blockchain Summit. And as you may have seen covered in the press, Denelle recently participated in a crypto leaders roundtable with US lawmakers representing the dynamic community of builders on Stellar who are making a difference in people's everyday financial lives. Feel free to ask her more about that if you're curious. All of these conversations help keep SDF top of mind as a reliable and consistent advocate for the use of public blockchains. I'll close with that for now and hand it back over to Carolyn for the Q&A.
All right, thank you, everyone. Okay, as a reminder, please feel free to keep dropping your questions in the Q&A and we'll get to as many as you can. Let's start with one from a community member who just wanted to know about a meeting with Ripple and Stellar in the US Treasury that happened recently. Denelle, can you shed any light on this?
Yeah, no, I think that what the person is referring to is the what Jason just mentioned, that we had a roundtable in DC and Brad was there and others were there from industry. It was a relatively small group, but it was awesome. I mean, part of the challenge that we've had, let's be honest, is in the US under the current administration, it's been really hard to get blockchain and crypto to become a priority. We're seeing a shift in that. We saw a shift over the last 4 months, really, with the current administration. We've already seen the potential Trump administration be involved and active in the space, and that's really good. We don't think that this at all should be a political issue. It's technology, man. We shouldn't be focused on the politics of it. We should be focused on the good that it's doing for the ecosystems and communities out there. And so our goal at this meeting, in particular, this roundtable, was to really work with the members that were there from the current administration. And also there were senators and congresspeople there that we could talk to just about the good that blockchain is doing and that we need to stop this sort of, I know lots of folks in the US think that there's this notion of choke point where they're making it hard for us to get banking from crypto and blockchain. We need to stop the fact that the SEC is regulating through enforcement instead of actually through creating rules. These are all the kinds of discussions that we had. And we really advocated for the Democrats to have a platform that included blockchain and crypto because we think it's really important for both sides to be embracing the tech stack. So it was great. I think it's a really great step forward. I do think that, again, we're really in the position of saying, we want all sides to be to understand the value of this technology and to see it thrive rather than try to whether they're trying to or not, whether to take steps to try to stomp it down. So that was really the genesis, and then the comments that were given during the meeting.
Well said. Thank you, Denelle. All right. Moving on, Justin, maybe you can take this one. There's someone who is interested to know more just generally about the smart wallets rollout that we mentioned. Any updates or more context on that you'd like to share, and just wallet activity in Q2 in general?
Yeah, I think that the part of the question that they had was about existing Stellar wallets and this new idea of smart wallets and how they interact. And it's a really interesting question, and it's one that from there is a capability with smart wallets to start to actually use the new signature curve SecP 256R1 that was like implemented in Protocol 21 to like access the capabilities that most mobile phones have to use like biometrics to actually sign transactions. So in other words, you will be able to sign blockchain transactions with Face ID or with thumbprint ID, and all of the difficulty around like managing keys, secret, phrases, if you like lose it, to like regenerate keys, like a lot of the weirdness of like Web3 interactions that people rely on right now to like actually sign transactions with their wallets can be replaced with something that is just like a beautiful end user interaction that mimics what people experience every day with their mobile phone. And so this is something that will just be super amazing. The capability is there at the protocol level. And now what needs to happen, and what is happening right now, is that there's work across the ecosystem to establish a standard for the right way to implement this, for the right way to create an interaction between this new type of wallet and existing wallets. And eventually what we'll end up with is some sort of SEP, right? A Stellar ecosystem proposal that outlines the standard way to do that. And that's something that the foundation is helping to drive that conversation, to draft that SEP. And then the wallets themselves will be like sort of interacting to help create that standard, and then figuring out how to implement it in their actual applications. So that whole discussion is happening publicly. We do it in the Discord I think every Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific. We have like discussions in the Discord around these standards. You can also join the mailing list. If you go to that meeting, you'll like sort of see the interactions that are happening to build that standard. And so that's where we are. It's like implemented at the protocol level. The ecosystem is working on a standard. And once it's there, wallets will begin to implement it so that they can like enable this like sort of magical user experience. It's really, really, really going to be cool.
It's really, really cool. And we've done this really, really fast in conjunction with the ecosystem. And it has been so awesome to see. And I can't wait for it to get into the core protocol.
Great, that's good context. So clearly we need your input, and this will be something really exciting for wallets to leverage on the network. So get in and engage there. Danelle, a question for you from someone about the Draper University Accelerator Program and partnership. Anything you want to share about the story behind that? And they want to know if Tim was personally involved.
So there's a fun fact. I actually did the Draper University. They used to have a show, and I did that when I was at Mozilla. So we had all the students from the Draper University come to Mozilla headquarters in Mountain View, and we did a recording, and it was really fun to go through them to educate them about tech and and certainly all the positions that Mozilla took on openness. So it was really fun. So that was my first introduction to Draper University and the team there. And then Tim and I spent some time together in Paris Blockchain Week. I guess it was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And we were on a panel together, and then we talked. We also had a portfolio business in common at the time. And then and Daniel, who runs our investment side, had spent a bunch of time with Tim's team from Draper University, really kind of building this accelerator program out. So yes, Tim has been involved in it. Tim is really awesome. He's really focused on supporting entrepreneurs and new developers. So it's been really great to have Tim and his team, who is just a really amazing team, involved in Draper University and in the Draper Accelerator Program. And so it's just fun to see this come to life. And I think there's going to be a lot of goodness that comes from it.
That's awesome. Okay, Justin, this one is probably for you to start. Someone wants to know, what is Stellar doing to bring developers from chains like Solana and Ethereum in? And, we've been doing a lot more in-person activations with developer audiences. So is there anything you would like to share? What's ahead for us on this front?
Absolutely, yeah. Over the past quarter, for sure, we've really picked up a lot of like momentum with in-person activations where we're working with like different organizations in the ecosystem to like really get out there and sort of get hands on keyboard with developers, onboarding developers. There's been a lot of interest and there's been a lot of attendance. I think I mentioned earlier there were like 40 different events. They included that EZA hackathon at Consensus, but there were also events that were done as part of DFS labs in Africa. There were events that were done with in India where we had like a builder house for a week that was with with Ryzen. And there are all of these different community events that are popping up that are also helping to onboard and educate developers. And so like we are doing a ton to like actually get out there and sort of meet them where they are. That's in combination with things like the Stellar Community Fund that helps them grow. It's in combination with things like the bounty programs that we have where people are contributing to docs. And so a lot of that activity is just like generally growing the community, getting community ambassadors out there who are like sort of speaking, doing things to actually educate others in their communities about the opportunities on Stellar. A lot of that is directed towards Web3 developers on other chains because they are already interested in the advantages that decentralization and building on blockchain bring. But it's also, directed at audiences where we know that Stellar can have an impact. So that's why there's these great sessions in, all the sessions that have happened in West Africa, for instance, and in Latin America. And so I think the answer is that we're sort of doing a lot of in-person activations that combine with all of the work that we've done to support the education and development of developers and with project growth support. And it's like sort of helping us to gain interest from not only blockchain devs in other ecosystems, but just developers worldwide who are interested in Web3.
And I just want to add, I think that one of the important parts about this is that they don't have to leave Solana. We just want them to come and also build on Stellar. And so we're actually seeing a lot of that happen already. And part of getting that to happen is that they get to meet the other developers and feel that there is a difference in terms of how developers are building on Stellar. And we've seen a lot of that goodness come out of conversations on, I can't get used to this, but X spaces and in other areas where developers have talked about the feeling of building together on Stellar is just different. And so we want them to experience that. And so there's been a lot of transition over. And then once we get like a few folks to come from other chains to Stellar, then they talk it up and then they come over. So Justin's team is doing a tremendous amount of work to get the word out and to get activations out. And then also we rely on those that come because then they can talk about it.
Great points.
I also just saw a question, just to clear something up really quickly. I saw a question that came in about how long is the relationship with Draper, and that relationship is 2 years. And the first activation of it is in August with the Hacker House in San Mateo, California. So then there'll be an accelerator, and then there'll be 2 cohorts for next year. So just to give a broad statement about what we're looking at for the relationship with Draper.
Definitely. Thank you, Denelle and Justin. Okay, I'm going to stack maybe a couple questions that are focused on like geographic priorities, competitiveness in these regions and things like that. So someone is asking specifically about like how we can impact and do more to compete in Southeast Asia. Another question about anything we're doing specifically in Nigeria to get developers to better understand what's possible on Stellar. So I'll open it up to anyone who wants to start just on our geographic priorities and work.
I'll jump in and then I'll hand it over to anyone who wants to add to it. So I think I've said this before. I don't know if I've said it on this kind of call, but the idea that Stellar is now like ready for the world is really prominent and strong in the way that we're trying to address all these different geographies. I will just tell you that before Sorbonne, I think that we had a great network that provided almost everything you needed, even like some of the activity in smart contracts, but it didn't allow people to build on their own. Now having Sorbonne, you have the full stack, you have everything there, and we're ready to compete in every geography. And so we're actually really working very hard in the global South and also in Southeast Asia to make a name for Stellar. We have a lot of developers that are already prominent in these regions and that know us. but now we're spending more time with the regulators and the policymakers, and also the larger companies in these regions. Specifically with respect to Southeast Asia, that is a key focal point for us, and we need to be able to show a lot more strength there, and we're focused on doing that. Nigeria, which is, I know, another part of the question that I saw, is how are we showing developers there what we can offer? Like, the truth is we have a really vibrant ecosystem and community in Nigeria, and Justin's team has been working with them. I saw a comment in here talking about the ambassador program. It's something that Justin's team's really working with the community to build. Having folks in region that can actually bring this technology to life for others in region is a really cool thing to do. And so that's part of the activity that we're doing. But we're really trying to really, our approach now is to be kind of everywhere. And I don't think that we were ready for that until we had Soroban, but now we're like kicking ass and ready to make this whole thing happen. So whatever, if you guys have ideas, we're happy to hear them. Justin,
Great.
Jason?
Yeah. One thing I'll say that's been super interesting is because there's activities that the foundation can undertake to go talk to regulators, to talk to prominent partners in a region, and those are super effective. But as Denelle was mentioning, like, a lot of what my team will do is look for organic interest in a region and then see what we can do to help connect people, to cultivate that interest, and to support the organic growth that's already happening. And so a lot of what's been interesting is in Nigeria is a good example. There was just like a ton of interest that started to become evident. And a lot of it was in the Discord where our community comes together. And you start like, there were so many people from Nigeria that were so interested in building on Stellar, in talking about Stellar, and in meeting each other, that there started to be this like groundswell of actual in-person events. And so our role there was pretty interesting, because it was like, okay, tell us, what can we do? What can we do to help you? Because you see the potential, you've got the interest, you've got the talent, you know the region. And so we've, in addition to like taking this like sort of proactive role, we've also had it's been really a great quarter for being like responsive and supportive to the needs that are coming to us organically. And I've never really seen anything like that. It's amazing.
Then the only thing I would add, and Denelle and Justin already highlighted this, just to stress, in each of these areas, we're not just doing one thing. I think the question asked about developers, we're absolutely doing things focused on developers like Justin just highlighted, but we're also talking to regulators. And then, people on my team are also talking to larger enterprises and institutions. So, for example, in Southeast Asia, we're talking to a very large financial institution about a really exciting tokenized asset project. So in each of these areas, which, and two particular focuses are West Africa and Southeast Asia, we're approaching it from all angles.
I also think one of the things that's really important is for us to understand as much as we can how the governments in those regions are looking at blockchain. And so part of the work that we also do is we fund research in the local universities to really highlight like issues. Like, if you have a concern about stablecoins coming into your country, let's show that this isn't going to impact the economic or other aspects of your systems there. And so we're funding research to do by these independent institutions there, so that they can actually take a look at this. Those are really good ways to be able to support new activity in the region, but to do it in a way that's not hostile to the government. So we're doing some of that too. It's super fun. Sorry, Carolyn.
No, please. That was great. Okay, maybe we have time for a couple more questions. I'll start with someone wants to know what we view as our largest growth areas for 2025. So as we look to the year ahead, what do you all see in front of us?
Well, I will start by saying that we need to see Soroban just become more and more and more active. We need to see TVL there increase dramatically. It's already pretty, like, given when it started and how, it's taken these protocols to develop there, because, it takes a little time. We're already seeing really nice TVL, but I need to see like 1 billion TVL, and we need to see that happen. That's one of the important areas. A big focus of ours, I'll just admit, is addresses. We need to see a lot more activity on the network, and addresses are a key indicator that people are leveraging the network, and that wallets are building and getting stronger, and dApps are doing the same thing. So we really are focused on that. And so I think we're going to see a lot more growth in the TVL on Soroban, and also we're going to see a lot more growth in addresses, and that's going to be global in terms of the regions that we focus on.
Yeah, I agree with that. And when I think about how we get there, I think about the story of, Meru starting to interoperate with Blend. And it's this, there are these DeFi protocols that have launched on the network. Many have been audited. They're starting to like actually attract some volume. And then there are these user-facing wallets that are starting to integrate the DeFi protocols. And I think as more and more wallets connect to protocols to create these end-to-end user experiences, it's going to drive TVL. It's going to increase the number of addresses. And there's this like great opportunity to basically offer the entire everyday financial services includes this like whole aspect of like savings, right? And I think DeFi can give you that, right? It gives you the ability to like transmute assets, but also to like do things with funds once they're on chain that sort of mimic the way that savings accounts works. And I think like that opportunity to create those end-to-end use cases will put wallets and DeFi protocols together to drive TVL and to drive more addresses, which will be super, super exciting to see. I think we're just at the beginning of that, but it's going to ramp up fast.
And what I would add is I think in 2025, Stellar will continue to show its leading position in tokenization of real world assets. And in particular, you'll start to see how that interacts with and connects with what Justin was just talking about, and Denelle as well, with the DeFi aspect. These tokenized assets offer, Justin was just saying, sort of like a savings account. You can do that through DeFi. You can also do that through just simply holding a tokenized asset, but then eventually you can also do kind of both at once. You can use a tokenized asset as collateral in a DeFi protocol, and these things start to compound on themselves. So I think Stellar will continue its leading position in that realm.
Great, thanks everyone. Okay, and then maybe the final question that we can close with is, what are we all most excited about in the back half of the year? It's great that we're focusing on 2025, but we still have the rest of 2024 ahead of us. And as someone just said in the Q&A, this is the most bullish we've ever seen Denelle. So Denelle, why don't we start with you?
Well, I think I'm just so excited about, and when I said a billion TVL, I wasn't hoping that was 2025, by the way. I was hoping that was this year. I know that's super bullish and crazy, but I would love to see that happen. So we're going to do our part to hopefully to get us there. I'm just so excited about everything that we have going. It is having the network sort of complete in my mind, and us to be able to focus on things that are important, like scalability, like, state archive, state bloat, to focus on passkeys. It's just been so awesome to not have to worry about like putting this gigantic piece of the network together. And so that is why maybe you're hearing me to be a bit more bullish than I have been historically. We have all the pieces now to be able to like take this thing to wherever we want to take it. And so it's kind of up to us as an ecosystem to push there. I'm super excited about Meridian. I think that it's going to be a great Meridian this year in London. I think we have Anthony Scaramucci, who's very bullish on blockchain and crypto. We have Idris, of course, speakers from Stripe and Circle, plus like media and the block and so much more to be announced. Like there's just so much opportunity that you can to get to learn about Stellar, and also how Stellar compares to other networks. And you can come and talk about those things there. So we have a lot of really good stuff coming, and I want us to be able to really focus there. Stripe is in the news a lot because they seem to be back in the game with respect to blockchain and crypto, and that's very exciting for us. And Stellar will be a part of Stripe's new like pay-in product, and that's not something that we've talked a lot about, but that's also something that I'm excited about. And we're working closely with Stripe to hope that we can get some more stuff out the door. So it's really exciting to see all the work that is happening with the team at SDF, but also frankly, like with just the ecosystem at large. It's like fun to see things being built in a different way than we have been able to historically. So I'm just kind of super bullish on all of it. And I feel like this is our year, 2024, 2025, sort of our year.
Okay, you heard it here first. I think that's a great way to close. So thanks everyone so much for joining us. As always, we'll have the webinar recording and the full report posted on the quarterly report page, as well as a blog going out by the end of the day. So make sure you're following us on Twitter, stellar.org, stellar.org for all the updates, and we'll see you again next quarter in October. Thanks everyone. Bye.